now we will be talking about the technology that's really been dominating the business world for the last year and a half. And I guess there's no better chart to illustrate this than this one. Take a look at this. We've got the NVIDIA chart coming up for you. We should have it momentarily. There you go. So this is quite stunning, isn't it? And that is a fantastic illustration of the boom, maybe also of the hype. By the way, over the last 3 years, this stock, the dominant chip maker in the world, has exploded by 300%. So I assume that most of you bought the stock maybe 4 years ago and you haven't sold it since. I assume that you're all very savvy investors. But I think if we look beyond NVIDIA, I think it is becoming increasingly clear that AI is also blurring the lines between what is real and what is fake, or should I say deep fake. And I need your help now because we prepared a couple of videos for you, deep fake videos. Only one of them is real. So, once again, take a look at this.
Technology has come in recent years. It means we all need to be careful.
The goal is to focus the mind, to transcend the distractions of everyday life.
Some TikTok fans, if you like what you're seeing, just wait till what's coming next.
Barista, amused, handed him a cup with a cheeky grin. As Jake blushed, the cafe erupted in laughter.
So once again, only one of these clips is actually real. Is it A, B, C, or D? Go back and get out your phone. Vote with us. Don't feel bad if you don't get it right. I got it wrong the first time. It is really tricky after all. And let's see what you think. Is it A, B, C, or D? Which one of these clips is not a deep fake? I'll give you a few more seconds. Wow, you're good. 47% say Morgan Freeman is real. You're right, you're spot on. I guess you're really good at spotting it, which is important. All right, let's talk more about the potential, the dangers, and the limitations of AI, specifically generative AI, with none other than Zack Kass. He is an AI futurist. He's also the former head of go-to-markets at OpenAI. Zack, here he is.
I'm glad you all got it right, by the way. Proves a lot of points, but we'll get to that in a second. Thank you so much for having me. I absolutely love this country. It's the most beautiful place on earth, I think. The trains run on time. Every man, woman, and child goes to sleep in a suit. By the way, they almost didn't let me in. They said, "Where's your jacket, sir?" So thanks for letting me here. Crowd work, good, this is good, we're getting along. Thank you all so much, I really appreciate this. We're gonna cover a lot in 25 minutes. I'll start by saying I do not expect anyone to believe everything I'm about to say. I would be very surprised if you did. That is okay. My job at this point in my life is to try to give people a glimpse to where we're going, and I do that in a couple ways. In 2019, I became obsessed, maniacally obsessed with AGI, artificial general intelligence. This, of course, is the theory that at some point, AI will have human intellectual equivalents. Fascinating, right? Because if you believe in this, and I do very much, then you have to believe at some point humans will solve all of our discrete problems and probably turn indiscrete problems into discrete ones. And if you believe that, then you have to start wondering if AGI is the last technology that humans invent on our own. And I believe that. But the path there is weird, for sure. It doesn't come without cost. All progress has cost. And it's not clear what happens when we get there. So let's talk a little bit about that. With the time we have, we'll talk about where we are. We'll talk about how we got here. It's a history lesson. We'll talk about where we're going. It's my vision for the future. and we'll talk about how I think you can prepare. And listen, you're Swiss, so I promise I will tell you how you can make money. But I really don't worry about the Swiss getting richer. What I worry about, I'm serious, is that you all actually optimize your life for a better future. And that we start designing our lives around a world that is going to become so much more fascinating and potentially so much more problematic. And I really, really, really want to stress the critical nature of you, not as business people, but as community leaders. What you say, what you believe, what you do has a ripple, not just with your children, but with your friends. And that matters a lot. So first, where are we? I'll make a very simple argument today that we are on the verge of the most profound industrial revolution in human history. Humans evolve biologically on a very linear scale. It's pretty cool. Every day we just get a little bit different. In over 100,000 years, we look a lot different than when we did, but we evolve societally on step functions, right? And we demarcate these step functions, kind of like messianic moments: fire, wheel, aqueduct, printing press. AGI will be one of these moments. And if you believe, and I do, that humans will be around a lot longer, because by the way, despite the pessimism that prevails in Europe right now, today is the best day ever to be alive. It is, okay? And it is so critical that we recognize that we have the technology now to make that trend super linear. We just have to do it right. So, we're much further than you realize. Much, much further. And the reason I know this is because I read white papers. Sam Altman recently said that he thought GPT-4 was boring. Sam's a very good marketer among many things. What he's saying is that GPT-5 is probably coming because he's seen the future, right? The thing is, the future was written a long time ago. The technology in your phones is old. It's really old. We're also much earlier than you realize. I teach a class at the University of Virginia in the United States, and we have a really simple assignment to start the class. It's really fun. We give every student a century: 2000, 1900, 1800, 1700, so on. We go far back. And the assignment is simple: explain the modern world to someone in your century. And it turns out, after 1900, it doesn't matter what century you get. It's an equivalent challenge. We've been convening as people the same way for a long time. We domesticated the horse 10,000 years ago. Agriculture's been around a long time. Something happens circa electricity, and the humans begin this exponential journey. And the really fun thought experiment is, imagine trying to explain the moon landing to someone in 1900. We hadn't flown a plane. 67 years later, we put a man on the moon. That's incredible. The point here is that we are in an exponential journey. We just don't realize it because we're in the midst of it. We're also designed really strangely to be so worried about what happens next. What woolly mammoth is outside our cave? There are a bunch of products in the market. I strongly recommend using these if you have not. I put this slide up in settings like this because I know adoption is a little slower in your demographic. So please. Sorry. But please use this stuff. It's making a big difference, and your kids are using it, and it matters a lot. But also, look, it's really important. If you want to make money, I'm serious. If you want to make money, if you want to keep being prosperous, this is really critical stuff. And in a region that has, let's be frank, made a business out of being conservative lately, it is pretty important that Switzerland bucks some of the trends that the EU is setting. I'll say it, right? Suffocating economic growth for the sake of regulation is problematic. And exploring this technology and what it can do before you policy it is probably a good idea. Whoops. Look, the reason I say this is because businesses are getting a whole lot better because of this technology, a whole lot better. 12% profit margin improvement. And that's having a massive impact on the market. The S&P 500 has grown $6 trillion since the launch of GPT-4. $6 trillion. $500 billion of that is NVIDIA. We just saw that chart, so let's set that aside. But this is fundamental improvements to the market. And I don't care that much about the S&P 500. I care about it as a proxy to other markets. As traditional industry adopts this technology, we will see an incredible boon to product growth and profit margin. All right, how we got here. This is a history lesson. I studied history and a little bit of computer science at Berkeley. I love history, but the only reason I teach this is because if you don't know where we came from, you can't possibly believe where we're going. And there are 4 things that happened that got us to this point. 4, that's it. And you only need to remember these if you want to sound smart at your next dinner party. But the most important thing that happened was the invention of the modern transformer. In 2017, 8 Google researchers, we now call them the Transformer 8, published a paper called Attention is All You Need. And it proposed, quite simply, that we were building AI models all wrong. And that instead of building them that think in straight lines, we should build them that think in parallel. And thus brought this new advent in AI, the Transformer. That's it. It's really profound, it's human readable, the paper, and it's a very simple idea that catapults us forward. At the same time that we see an explosion in the amount of available compute, driven by the A100, NVIDIA's breakthrough, but also by a zero interest rate environment. Companies like OpenAI can raise sovereign nation amounts of money, back the truck up. At the same time that the internet has grown 4 orders of magnitude in a decade. So you now have this treasure trove of data. And if you mix that pot with the fact that all of these people are willing to share their best practices with each other, you get this. And these are the results that are really cool. Between 2015 and 2021, these models get really good. But you don't care that much. And the reason you don't care that much is because they're not good enough, they're slow, and they're expensive. End of 2021 is GPT-3. Matters a lot to me. Doesn't matter to any of you. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Maybe there's someone in the crowd that's like, no, I was using that, but you probably weren't. But something interesting happens, which is then between 2021 and 2023, we observe the exact same superlinear trend. And this is where you care, because this is GPT-4. These models got so big and so good so fast. And that is really exciting because it's a trend of where it's going. But the most important thing that's happening right now is actually happening a little more quietly. And that's that these models are getting really cheap. And this is the thing that I care most about. This is why I now am on this crusade to convince the world that we are headed in a great direction, because we are not going to live in a monolithic future. This is not a technological hegemony. Anytime in history we observe a critical resource decline in cost this quickly, there is a Cambrian economic explosion. In the 20th century, we measured economic prosperity, kilowatt consumption of electricity. It was pretty simple. That was the best proxy we had. In the 21st century, my prediction is we measure it on AI consumption, token consumption. And the lower this cost gets, the better it is for the world. GPT-3 was $10 per million tokens when it came out. It's less than 10 cents today. It's so compressed it can run easily on your device. Wild. As a result, this is where I think we're going. I think, quite simply, we are headed towards an abundant future. I believe it in my bones. I understand why humans compete for sport. I understand why humans compete for mates. I understand why humans compete for culture and arts. I have never fully understood why we have to compete economically. I get it. I understand there's incredible innovation driver. But why you have to win in order for me to lose doesn't make sense to me. It never has. And right now, as wealthy as this nation is, there are so many places suffering so much, and that's a blight on humanity. We have the opportunity to fix it, such that one man's gain is not another man's loss. And this is what this technology presents us. This is the opportunity. But the first thing that has to happen before we get there is we have to learn to distinguish between technological thresholds and societal thresholds. A technological threshold simply asks the question, what can a machine do? A societal threshold asks the question, what do we want a machine to do? It's pretty fun. In the United States, this is really sad, 50,000 people die on the roadways every year. 7,000 of them are children. Yet autonomous vehicles polls at 25% approval. Why? For a long time, I hit my head against a wall, sometimes almost actually trying to understand this problem. And then it occurred to me a couple things. One, the technological thresholds are moving so fast now, societal thresholds don't have time to catch up anymore. Most people don't know how good autonomous vehicles actually are. But two, and far more interestingly, humans have exceptional tolerance for human failure and no tolerance for mechanical failure. This is a big deal. And this, among many other things, is going to be one of the incredible drivers of the reason that we do not adopt this technology quickly enough, because we have no tolerance for its mistakes. And this is going to be problematic because the future is about to unfold much faster than the past. And technology is about to get so much better, so much faster. And our ability to update to it is going to be critical to our willingness to improve our lives because of it. All right, this is where I tell you all the ways that I think this is going to go wrong. And I'm going to start by saying I'll scare you a little, but I promise to wrap a bow on this story. But I worry about a few things. And the three things I worry about in order are, one, my theory of idiocracy. I think there is a non-zero chance that we solve a bunch of our problems and the value of critical thinking declines so much that we actually devolve intellectually. I really worry about this. I also think that Gen Z has shown us the incredible socio-cognitive decline as a result of our addiction to our devices. People laugh at this, but it is so sad. We should never have given kids cell phones. We should take social media away from them today if we can. I'm not kidding. At some point in my talk, about 10% of you will look down at your phone, not even thinking about it, doing God knows what, because your brain has reminded you there's some dopamine available to you. It's a huge problem because this stuff is about to get even better. And if we do not free ourselves from our device addictions, it will get much worse for us. The second thing I worry about is an identity displacement crisis. Is a job displacement crisis. Job displacement is a problem for a very specific reason. We've had two industrial revolutions. On either side of the industrial revolution, we've had something incredible. Better jobs, they pay more, and they're safer, and more jobs. Global unemployment declines. But why is there societal upheaval at the outset of and the end of every industrial revolution? Very specific reason. If you told a mill worker that they had to go work in a factory, they would probably tell you no. And the reason they tell you no is because they're a mill worker. Maybe their parents were mill workers. They apprenticed as a mill worker. Their children would be mill workers. In the United States, our most common last names are Smith and Miller. We used to name ourselves after our occupation. We have developed an inextricable connection between our sense of self, our purpose, and our work. It is impossible to disconnect at this point. And the problem that we are facing now is not a job displacement crisis, it's an identity displacement crisis. It is the risk that our work changes so frequently and so much that even if we are gaining economic prosperity, we are losing too much in the process. That's going to be really hard. This is going to be the ultimate challenge I think that governments have to face. Staring at a collection of workers in an industry and saying, it's okay. Not kowtowing and saying, you're right, AI cannot come for your jobs. This is going to be really hard. Third thing I worry about is existentialism. I also have worried that AI might kill us, but I don't worry about it for the reason you might worry about it. Let me explain. If I put two wheels on this device and I trade on a very, very simple task, which is to fetch me a bottle of water outside this room, and I put it on the ground, I push go, it scurries off, and it comes back with a bottle of water. That one, glass of water. Now, I'm happy because it's completed its task. It's happy because it's completed its task, but we actually don't know what's happened back there, and it could be really bad. It could be water spilled everywhere. Somebody could be huddled in a corner that used to be holding that glass of water, right? We call these unintended consequences, right? We didn't plan for these things. And this has a name in AI, and its name is the alignment problem. The alignment problem. And the alignment problem asks a very simple question. Can we train a machine to be effective at accomplishing a task and concern itself with the human experience? Very cool, very hard. And we know it's hard because we observe the alignment problem in real life. Every parent in this room is raising their child to be capable and effective and hardworking, and to be thoughtful and kind and caring and sympathetic. And it's not sufficient to say to your child, follow all the rules, break all the rules, put yourself first, put others first. These don't create interesting, well-adjusted humans. But you can't stand next to your child all the time to tell them exactly what to do, so we imbue values. This is the hardest job of a parent, aligning their child to the world. And this is the job that AI researchers must now do. Because the risk in all of this is not that AI wakes up one day and says, humans should now die. as much as you might like Terminator. The risk is that AI is assigned tasks that have terrible unintended consequences. That's the risk. Now, lastly, let me tell you the ways in which the AI revolution is going to massively decrease suffering and massively increase joy. And there are 4 things that are about to happen. The first is we are going to have a wave of scientific breakthroughs. We are going to cure cancer. We are going to cure neurodegenerative diseases. We are going to solve quantum computing and nanotechnology and fusion energy. This is going to happen. It just is, whether you like it or not, as scary as it might sound. We are going to have great leaps, and the cool thing about great leaps is they beget great leaps. This is already happening, by the way. The economic indicators are blinking green. We split HIV out of DNA 2 weeks ago. We discovered our first antibiotic in 60 years 2 months ago, both thanks to AI. This is happening in real time. Second thing that's gonna happen, notwithstanding an identity displacement crisis, our jobs are about to get a whole lot better. They just are. Everyone in this room hates about 50% of their job. I know this because I ask people, and behind closed doors, they're very willing to admit it. And it's not to say your job is bad, it's just to say there's a bunch of bureaucracy in your job. We have a word for it, busy work. Politicians, senior leaders, everyone. That's why we just keep hiring analysts to farm the work to them. And it turns out they just hire more analysts. This work is about to go away. The computational cruft that is attached to our lives is about to go away in an incredible way. The third thing that's gonna happen, and I know this is a little controversial in the face of all the CPI inflation that we are seeing right now, but the world is about to get a lot less expensive. And I don't mean on a CPI basis, I mean on an aggregate basis. 50 years ago, the United States spent 40% of our wages on foodstuffs. Today, we spend 10%. That is a trend that we will continue to see. The world will get less expensive all the time. And the last thing that happened is time. And I'm gonna just stress this. Switzerland is one of these incredible, incredible places that has an abundance of so many things, especially beauty. Especially beauty. And the Swiss are so proud of this. The Swiss know how to spend their free time exceptionally well. But I will tell you, I am not convinced that a lot of the world does, okay? We're about to get so much time back, and I am not convinced that we will not actually dive deeper into our device addiction. And so my challenge to everyone in this room is, one, to remember, first of all, that today is the best day ever to be born, and it will get better. But two, in a world where we get to do whatever we want, will we recommit ourselves to the thing we have delivered ourselves from, which is time with friends and family, in community, outdoor. This is what matters most. Thank you all so much. I'm excited for Q&A.
Get your glass of water. It's not automatic just yet. You still have to go and get it yourself, unfortunately. Please do send in your questions through the app anytime. Of course, Zack is happy to take them. Look, I mean, you talked about AGI before, artificial general intelligence. That's the moment when the machine becomes smarter than the human. When are we going to see it? Are we already there? Months away? Years away?
Yeah, my prediction is 2030.
2030.
Yeah.
That's very specific.
Yeah, it is specific. I picked this number in 2018. Ray Kurzweil picked it a long time ago when he wrote The Singularity. Sam exposed me to this number. I don't know where his is today, so don't quote me on that. But a lot of people have talked about 2030. John Maynard Keynes picked it in a paper he wrote called The Economic Possibilities of Our Grandchildren. In 1930, he predicted in 100 years we would have technological capabilities beyond our comprehension. So that's my prediction.
All right, 2030. Now, a really interesting article in the New York Times this week. I'm not sure if you read it, but it was about the culture at OpenAI, your former employer. And in the pursuit of AGI, OpenAI is reckless. And the culture is one of punishing whistleblowers. Is that the culture that you saw at OpenAI?
Well, I didn't read the article because I don't read gossip columns, but...
It's the New York Times.
I'm full of hot takes today. No, I will just, I don't, there's no gun to my head. There's no one behind this curtain. OpenAI is an incredible place full of very well-intentioned people with a very, very open, honest culture. I think it's very easy for people to catastrophize, and I think it's actually quite easy for someone to stare at this and be really scared. I can understand why someone would publish a paper like this, but accusing OpenAI of what it's accused it of makes no sense to me.
All right, honest answer from you. Maybe we've got time for a final question here. You talk about all these, efficiency gains and all these profits and extra revenues that can be made and all the time we're gaining from it. But there's one element in a way that's missing, and that's all the electricity that's driving the data centers and all of that. And we know that electricity is scarce because everything in this world needs to be electrified. So I'm wondering, Zack, is electricity and energy, is that something that enables NI or does it limit it?
Both.
Both.
I mean, yeah, I think obviously we need a whole lot more electricity. I sound so hand-wavy when I answer this, and my comms team hates this answer, but the only real solution here is fusion. Like we can keep building green energy, but it's a Band-Aid over a gushing wound. We need fusion. We need a great leap. We should consume more energy. I'm just going to say it. We should consume more energy. It should just be better. We know this. We know this. Energy consumption is not inherently bad. The type of energy is bad, and we made nuclear illegal in the 80s, and we hand-wring about it now, but we had a chance to build way better, more efficient energy, and instead we burned trillions of tons of coal. We just shouldn't have done that, and we get a chance to make it right now.
All right, next time we'll have you on the energy panel, Zack. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.